Hey everybody, Darren here again. Going to share with you blog number 81. If you want it easy, work harder. I wrote this on August 13th, 2019, and I love the message behind this one. Kind of borrowed it from, I can't remember where exactly I heard this analogy first to give the proper credit to, but it wasn't an original idea, but I did expand on it with my own thoughts. So with that said, here it goes. You know the old analogy about how serene a duck looks gliding around on the water, yet underneath he is paddling like crazy? Yeah, that should be your approach too. You should be a duck. Whether you are a coach, a competitor, a manager, or an employee, this is the look you want to have. A look of calm, someone who is in control of themselves. If a situation is difficult, you need to remain calm and execute. That is the key to bending things in your favor. Regardless of what is happening around you, you'll need to look the part of someone who has their shit together. Be a duck and set the tone for others to follow. I can tell you as an athlete, I struggled with this piece at times. Not only do I have a, let's call it verbose personality, but I had heavy baggage and a lot of peripheral stuff that I was far too concerned about. I allowed that crap to weigh on me and to make my job harder. I managed to get results anyway, but it led to a lot of stress, unnecessary struggles, and more than one embarrassing situation. The moments I held it all in and kept things under control, I performed better, was less emotionally drained, and I recovered far more quickly. I was in a better frame of mind for the next match or the next practice session, and it snowballed. Other times, I still allowed the storm in my head to be expressed externally and had all of the downsides that went along with it. It is a constant struggle and one that all of us need to fight every day. As a coach, I do my best to short-circuit these tendencies in my players and teach more effective skills. It is easier when working with younger athletes as they are less set in their ways. Teaching them how to be a better competitor is one of my main goals as a coach, as I think this translates to the real world better than any other skill they would glean from playing a competitive sport. Things like breathing techniques and visualization are two skills absolutely necessary to help in other areas of life, such as a job interview, giving a speech, or even on your wedding day. I teach them to be ducks. To facilitate this calm and cool exterior, where everything looks easy and natural to you, you have to work really hard to prepare. Everybody wants to win and to have the glory, but few people are willing to prepare to the length necessary to facilitate that kind of success. You have to log the hard miles. You have to practice, review, refine, and practice some more. You must do the high-level work every time you practice, not just go through the motions. Perfect practice makes perfect. That is the key, and let me repeat that. Perfect practice makes perfect. The discipline it takes to do this is a developed skill. It takes time to cultivate the necessary self-control and fortitude to brush off a bad day on the court and still show up and put in the work the next day. This is what makes the difference. You do the work, you make things easier. If you don't, assume you will be paddling against the current more often than not. When it comes to the business world, and sales in particular where I make a living, you have to do the work. You have to know your product or your service inside and out. Know what it can and cannot do. You have to set the right expectations and then deliver on those expectations. You can't promise something that you know your company can't provide and then hope for the best, or worse yet, leave it to the client services team to clean up the mess while you're off chasing more sales. You need to learn your target audience and how to speak their language. One size does not fit all in sales. You have to be flexible, adaptable, and most of all, a calm voice of reason when things go awry. And they will. No one is perfect, and your company or your service is bound to make an error along the way. But if you are a duck and the clients know they can rely on you to fix things and solve the problem, they will panic less. They will give you a chance to fix it. This is what the client wants in a partner. So you should practice being a duck. I know that sounds funny, but I do think the analogy is very applicable. You must develop the skills of looking calm and collected, and that you have things under control. This is intimidating to opponents, but reassuring to yourself and to those around you on your team or in business. Do the work when no one is looking to make sure you develop the skills and the mental toughness to look calm and serene above the water, even if underneath you are paddling like crazy. Get quacking. I wish you luck in your endeavors. So some additional thoughts on that. As I alluded to, I really struggled with this in my racquetball career. I have lugged an awful lot of baggage around with me. I played many of the matches to go through the motions and get to the finals where I finally felt like I was going to have to really, really work to win. And there were times where I was not a happy camper and let's call it displaying a very poor attitude on the court. This personally was very, very difficult for me because not only did I represent myself in a very poor fashion, I have always had sponsorships from equipment companies, things like that. So I misrepresented them at times. I have broken rackets out of anger. Think about that statement. I have an equipment company who's giving me free equipment, and some of it is literally a $200 racket, and they're giving me a couple of them to play the season with, and I have the audacity to be mad about me not playing up to my own expectations or somebody beating me, and I break a racket that was given to me for free by my sponsor. That's insanity. And I know that now, and I knew it then, but I did not do a very good job of controlling that behavior in some situations. I do think in some ways that made me a better coach because I could see that behavior in people early on in the process, and I could, in many cases, help them work through that, short circuit that immediate reaction, and learn to be a better competitor under that stress. I know what was going on in their head. I understand how they feel because I had been there many, many times myself. When you are playing against a very evenly matched opponent, it may come down to literally one or two shots after half an hour of a game that makes the difference. And sometimes, as uncomfortable as that is, if you can just outlast them by holding yourself together a little bit longer than they do, that will be enough to win. You don't have to do it perfectly. You don't have to do it for the entire duration of everything that happens. But when it's really, truly crunch time, if you can outlast them for a little bit longer, you will come out on top most of the time. One of the things that I see people do in competitive situations is panic when things start to get out of control. Whether it's, to use a racquetball analogy, you were winning the first game of a match, you slacked off, you ended up losing the first game, and now you're down in the start of the second game, and things are really starting to spiral out of control. It seems easy to say, but all you have to do is go back to what you were doing before, and you should be fine. You had built a lead in the first game, and you let it slip away. Unless your opponent truly made some changes that you have to adjust to, you just need to get back to what you were doing before. Now, an evenly matched opponent knows how to make some adjustments, but that should be expected. You have to go into a match or a competitive scenario with not just one game plan and hope that that's enough. You have to do your homework if possible and have several game plans in play that you can shift to and win with in an alternative fashion. In sales, there's been plenty of times where I've done a presentation, I'm getting bad body language or bad vibes from the people who were sitting across the table from me. Clearly, they don't understand the value of what my service does, or there's some other reason that they want to finish this process as quickly as possible and get back to what they were doing. So instead of panicking, if I've done my homework, I can really start to chip away at the walls that they're building up. If I know what their company does, how they do it, what struggles they have, what solutions, if any, they currently have in place, and if it's a competitor, why we're better, or if they don't have a solution like mine in place, how much financial impact they're missing out on. If I do the work ahead of time and stay calm in those situations, I can talk an awful lot of people into giving me a little more time to explain how and why our service is the right choice for them and get them to sign on the dotted line. That is an acquired skill for sure. It takes a lot of time to develop the patience, the knowledge base of what your company does, and then learn to be able to go to somebody's website, get a pretty good idea of what they do as a company, and then sit down in front of a decision team, ask the right questions, listen to the answers, and craft your message to align with what they need. That is what separates mediocre salespeople from great salespeople. The same approach is what separates mediocre competitors from great competitors. You have to do the work. There are no shortcuts. You've got to log the hard miles. You got to do the homework. You've got to know your game inside and out. You got to play to your strengths, and you have to see what's going on with your opponent or your prospect, and you have to tailor what you're doing to meet those needs. That's why I like the analogy of the duck. Sitting on top of the water, everything looks cool and easy. Even if you are boiling on the inside or paddling like crazy underneath the water surface, don't let them see you sweat. If you've done your homework, you have the opportunity to be calm and collected in that situation. And if you do so, you will have much better results, I guarantee you. As always, I wish you luck with your endeavors.